I think our markets are going to give it a little chance. But we're taking in jobs, and we're taking in industry, we're taking in trillions of dollars. I think our markets are going to move. Got to give it a little bit of time. So you got to give that little time. I haven't checked my 401k.
His 401k. That president on Air Force One there, we played that earlier as it was being played back to us from his trip to Florida. So a lot of people are checking their 401k, though, after today. So we'll see what happens after this big bust on Wall Street. Boom is coming, says the president. But you look at these numbers, Dow, S&P 500, Nasdaq, in the red's an understatement. Look at the middle of the screen, the tech stocks at the Nasdaq, 6% lower in a single day. S&P 500 and the Nasdaq both down the most since 2020, which was some time ago. Scott Martin joins us now. Old buddy Scott Martin, Chief Investment Officer at Kingsview Wealth Management out in Chicago.
Wow.
I would say good to see you, but well, it is good to see you. But that was.
You never thought you'd see me again, Connell. And I'm sorry I found you, but man, this feels so good. Reunited. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, we had this dude named Wiz on earlier, who I thought it was just a fighter pilot, but turns out he's a trader, and he says this is a buying opportunity and all the rest. So he was like the positive side. Are you like that, or are you saying, I don't know, it's going to get ugly for a longer time? What do you think?
Well, I'm not going to talk about myself, speaking of ugly, but I'm not going to disagree with the guy named Wiz who flies fighter jets. But he's read about a few things. There are a lot of folks that are kind of sitting on the sidelines. I think was one of his points that about people getting out of the market, Connell even getting nervous before today. And I mean, even our clients, Kingsview, have started to get nervous as tariff stuff popped up. So I think that cash on the sideline is helpful for times like these. But my goodness, when you see a name like Restoration Hardware, which I know you shop at, by the way, down 40% today, or say Waste Management up like 2% or 1%, or even a Garmin down 20-some, man, those are scary numbers to see if you have them, like you said, in a 401k.
Yeah, that was interesting what you said. So if you're in your office, wherever you were today, did you get, I bet you got a bunch of calls, right? So what was like the tenor? Like, did people call up? What was the questions they were asking? Or just give me an example and like what you said, if that happened.
Yeah, great question. Most of the folks that were calling today were kind of more like, hey, what's the opportunity here? Or we kind of expected this, but let's get through it and see what happens. That worries me, though, Connell, to what we think about when we think about that sentiment indicator. Because we like to have people, unfortunately, calling and freaking out. Because as money managers, as investors, as folks that take care of clients' money, when those days happen, or my mom's calling me, for example, to say, hey, I got to sell everything, and even though she's fine, it's like, that's the time. That's the flush. That's
so you don't feel that? Like this is not, in the market, they call that capitulation, like meaning like we're throwing in the white towel, it's over, and that's the bottom. So your point is it didn't feel like that today.
It did not. And I think that's the thing, too, that as we have a couple more days like this, we can see it. But, I mean, you mentioned the biggest point of the day. I mean, the Nasdaq flew through the Century Club down 100, and then the Millennium Club down 1,000 points in the Nasdaq. If folks could digest that a little bit, but what happens on these days, believe it or not, folks don't look at their 401ks.
Well, that's think about how crazy that is. If you just simple math about percentages. So, like when we started doing this, like the big thing, because you and I are like the same age-ish probably, that was like, oh my God, the Nasdaq hit 5,000 because it was this huge. Now you're saying it goes down 1,000. Look at that, it goes down 1,000 points. I know the percentages are different in a single day, but it just tells you, or just shows you how crazy it was today.
It's massive, and I think what happens, Connell, too, you're pointing out a good issue here. Last night, after Trump came out and laid out the board with everybody, basically every country you've ever heard of on it.
Well, yeah, some of them don't have people, by the way. There were a few countries with literally no people. But that's...
Yeah, I thought I was going to be next. And it's like, or you, certainly. And it's like that, once you put that on there, Connell, the bots, the traders, everybody that came out for the aftermarket blew this thing away out of the water, just all the way down. So you're right. When we have all this activity that's out there, all these market participants, hedge funds, and so forth, they really can push the market around. And so as an individual investor, you got to make sure you don't want to play in that pool necessarily too long, but use the money manager.
But what about these stocks, like good company, like Apple, great American companies like that, or Amazon, all these huge tech that just got killed today. They're down like 9% a piece. Okay, so does it make sense to buy some of those stocks, or just not quite now?
I think it does. It's a long-term investor, and Wiz mentioned this. Anytime you get a chance to get something at a 10% discount like an Apple, anytime you get, how about JP Morgan, Connell, down about 8%, Wells Fargo down 12%, Bank of America down 13%. Those are tried and true good companies that are not going to go below. This is not 2008. It's not even 2020. This is just a little bit of a hiccup. I think it's a little bit of a...
Is it a little bit of a hiccup, or is it kind of this new world order or whatever? Like, you know, some people in the administration say we want to change the whole system here, which would be more than a hiccup.
It would very much so. In fact, that'd be pretty much a sickness. Maybe that would be like COVID. And I just don't think they mean it, honestly, because I think if you look at the demographics, like the structure behind us,
right,
there's so many things that don't play out with the whole idea. I would love for manufacturing and jobs to come back to America. I'd love for everything to be made here and we buy everything, we make it. It's not possible. We don't do that. And so we have to work with our counterparts, Mexico, China, Canada, and make sure that we're making things fairer. But to do that, we don't just go out and swing a sword or hit him with a bazooka.
All right, got to run, man. But thanks for coming on. We'll have you on more often now that you're free to do so. We used to talk at another place. Another guy we used to talk to at another place is the great Blake Berman, who will take